Okay, so Blissful Sleep. I thought many more people would be on this one today, but they're probably going to watch the recording and the rewatch. So this will be also uploaded as a podcast, but I recommend you watch it as a video because obviously you're not going to be able to see the presentation that goes along with it. So I'm just going to jump in and get my screen share up, and then we will get cracking. So you can all see my screen. Yeah. Cool.
Yes, we can see it.
Sorry, I've muted myself. Yes, I can see it.
I could see you nodding anyway, Rachel. You were, yeah. Right. Okay. So, right. So how can we optimize sleep and essentially get more out of our body? Now, I know we've had the initial training from Judy Hastings. However, this stuff I learned with a guy called Angus Buckle on my own mentorship program enlightened me to a different level as to how we can really sort of understand just the golden nuggets that we're kind of missing, and essentially the certain facts of things that we can learn essentially to make things even better. So overview of this presentation, we're going to look at why sleep is vital for our body composition goals. We're going to look at how to get better results without punishing ourselves, and essentially the more we can focus on sleep, the more we do not need to think, right, we need to do more, when in actual fact, we can do less and optimize our sleep levels and quality. What your own body clock might be and how we can shift that into you feeling more awake and refreshed on waking, understanding when we perform best, understanding our body clock and essentially nutritional habits that can go along with that to make sure that everything is enhanced. Sleep gold facts that I'm going to be sharing with you, and the power of switch off time. So big payback in terms of the calories and all the good stuff that you're probably wondering why and how, and essentially how to fast track your results with, as I said, doing less, not just more. Because obviously if we throw all of our eggs in one basket, we're going to feel burnt out and a bit shit at one point or another. So believe it or not, the answer to this question, have you ever searched for sleep help in Google? Just nod your head or put it in chat. No. Okay. Okay. Believe it or not, on top of obviously diet advice and fat loss advice, sleep help is now one of the most researched topics on Google, because people out there obviously struggle with sleep, and there's generally quite a big parallel between someone that's overweight and possibly obese to how much they sleep, and obviously their energy levels that are sort of drawn by obviously food choices, their lack of activity, and essentially it will have then a knock-on effect to obviously all aspects of health, but obviously sleep as well. So that's an interesting fact for you. But the problem currently, see, sometimes you probably wonder why you're flying, such as you get up, you just get everything done and you have a fantastic productive day. And others, you just think, why can I just not kick back into gear? It might be because of sleep. It might be because you've done too much. It might be because of your food. But today we're obviously going to delve into each and every aspect, and essentially, like with everything else we do, we need to be consistent with elements such as, obviously we look at our walking aspect, we look at our eating, we look at our water. So the 4 pillars of success we look at, sleep is one of them, alongside nutrition and therefore calories and protein. We look at obviously our output, we look at recovery, and we look at sleep. Obviously water can come under the nutrition band. So with little sleep, you probably felt like this most of the time, or if not, you must have felt some of these at some point, whether it's now or a few weeks ago, or sometimes more than others. With little sleep, we know that we've got an increased use of stimulants. Now, when I talk about stimulants, I'm not talking about the illegal kind. I'm talking about the most overused stimulant in the world, which is coffee. So obviously, when we're tired, we think, oh, I need a coffee. this is the ultimate go-to for many people. If you're not a coffee drinker, then sometimes it could be tea, or it can be things like Diet Coke, who are obviously quite high in caffeine as well. We generally have less control over our diet. We've certainly got less focus, a lot more mind fog, and essentially that leads to poor decision making and less energy for yourself. So come the weekend or come the evening, you feel a bit shit and a bit low and a bit sluggish, and sometimes you just can't get that drive that you essentially want all the time. After good sleep, we know that we can wake up feeling refreshed. Weight can drop off, believe it or not, more so. And we're going to go into that a bit later. Job fulfillment is far more increased, because obviously if you're doing a job where you're tired all the time, you're not simply going to enjoy it as much as you possibly should. You're more aware of your body state. So when I say that, the next training we're going to look at in a few weeks' time is understanding your body state. But you're more aware of it because you're not just sleep deprived. You're not just rolling from one day to the other and just keep pushing on for the sake of it. If you've got good sleep, your body is more aware. You're less volatile to emotional decisions, making bad food choices. Your body is going to feel better and look better, obviously, because you're going to feel leaner, less puffy, wider awake, less sort of black circles under the eyes, and obviously you're going to feel better. What else would you want? I mean, sleep can essentially make everything else fly a lot better. So now, just excuse the images. I thought I'd put some images of me in so they're a little bit more relatable rather than some just dragged off the internet. So we need sleep. Sleep isn't just because we need sleep, okay? It goes, we have stress on the body, such as training. We must have recovery. And essentially, if we want that tone look and that better body composition in terms of looking leaner, so that was me when I was dieting for 6 months solidly, we have growth, okay? Now, I'm not saying everyone wants to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or a female bodybuilder. Of course we do not. But if we want that tone look, growth is not just going to be for growth in terms of obviously body composition. It's going to be in terms of growth in terms of mental development. It's going to, across the board, we're going to grow as individuals and essentially turn up a lot better every single day for every aspect of our life. So it's really important. And there must be times when we focus on recovery, as opposed to thinking we need to do more, okay? If we get into that point of thinking, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, then that's the body's time in which we need to really knuckle down and dial down on sleep routine. And we're going to talk about that today. So the frontal lobe in the brain, i.e. this bit here, this is our emotional, physical and behavioral control center, okay? I'm not going to go into it too much because we're not going to look at the science today. We're just going to look at the aspects that you can implement and take action with. But motivation, if this hasn't got the energy and if we're sleep deprived, this will make everything else feel so drained and so drab. So when you've got low motivation, it's because this part of the brain hasn't got the energy that it needs to essentially provide you with it, okay? We sometimes then tell ourselves to pull back. We tell ourselves, oh, I don't really want to turn up for this session. I don't want to do the home session today. I'm feeling tired. Or, you haven't got that get up and go. And sometimes it can lead to a negative mindset. I say a negative mindset. We've talked before about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Obviously, when you're in a fixed mindset, your attitude very much is, okay, I can't do that. I'm going to stay where I am. You don't see it as anything as an opportunity. You just want to stay where you are and in your comfortable sort of zone. Obviously, when you're on the other end of the spectrum in your growth, you want to implement as much as you can. Essentially, you've got that ability to want to literally grow as an individual, and nothing feels like too big a challenge. You'll take on anything. So does that make sense so far? This is a really important part of the brain that will affect our emotional and behavioral energy. So when we look at sleep stages, now this is going to be really important. A sleep cycle is 90 minutes, okay? Most people need around 4 to 5 cycles or get 4 to 5 cycles, sorry. The elderly and those that suffer with insomnia generally get about 4 cycles. So 3 cycles, we're obviously going to be looking at 4.5 hours sleep, which is pretty poor. And that will be the likelihood if you've gone out drinking before and you've gone out partying with friends, or you've been around a friend's house and you've literally looked at your watch and thought, shit, it's 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. You drag yourself home and you wake up at your normal time, and that offsets you into a bad few days because you're obviously sleep deprived. If we look at 4 cycles, obviously looking at around 6 hours, but our optimum is going to be 5 cycles plus. Now that is ideally the minimum amount of sleep we want to get. If you're a professional athlete, then you're going to need more because obviously you're training more. However, 5 cycles is really what we're aiming for at a minimum. We all know most of the benefits of sleep, but I'm just going to discuss them briefly. So we know that we can have an improved cognitive function, so therefore obviously brain function to make decisions and essentially have better stimulation from the brain. Fat loss and muscle gain, so therefore body composition changes. So we can technically gain muscle while we're in a calorie deficit and therefore look like we've got more muscle, because obviously we're shrinking one and increasing the other. Increased longevity of life, obviously greater happiness, improved and more consistent mood. Now, I'm not saying that sleep is going to make you the most joyful, smiliest person every day, because when kids come into the equation and you've got an arsehole of a colleague, or something doesn't go right, you're not going to have the best mood when that happens. But I can certainly say that sleep is going to give you more of a consistent mood than if you didn't have it. Improved energy, improved productivity, and also greater strength. So obviously if we're better recovered, we can make the most out of our training sessions when we need them to happen. So these are really simple tips that we can implement. Notice I said implement, okay? So there are 5 there. However, pick 2 that you can really simply use and go with them and then build on it. I'm not going to say, right, take 5 and use all 5 at once, because we need, like everything you've done up until now on your journey, we've built every step of the way. We've not just gone from 0 to 100 in a case of a month, okay? So first one, it's going to sound really basic, but obviously you can relate when you've got kids. Be consistent with your bed and wake time. Our body clock likes consistency. Like your kids, if they don't have their bedtime and their wake up time, they're going to be ratty as hell. And obviously we can be as well. If we've been woken up at 3 a.m, we're going to feel pretty crap. We're going to talk about routines a little bit more later, but create a simple dedicated morning and evening routine. This can even be 15 minutes. So you might have read before that routines need to be half an hour, even 2 hours. Remember what I've said before, routines need to be easy for you, and therefore obviously they can be dedicated and consistent both morning and evening. Try and make sure you're taking 1 full day off from any activity in the week. This is time when we can completely switch off from activity. So this I'm actually saying about step count as well, not panicking about how many steps you're getting in, really focusing on dialing in your recovery and essentially making sure you've got that quality time, obviously, with those around you. This is a bit of a hard one. Now, this is one I'm really trying to implement from this weekend, because this weekend just gone, obviously I was catching up with training, etc. from my break, but taking 1 full day off from screen time. So that is making sure you're not scrolling through social media loads, you're not watching a ton of TV every day. Make the most of getting out in the fresh air and essentially not looking at that screen. We all have tons of screen time day on day, and all that blue light will really affect our sleep quality, and essentially obviously all the effects that we're talking about now. Try and schedule, obviously dependent on, you know, days holiday with work and stuff, but try to make sure you've got a 3-day weekend every quarter. That is going to help you get a little bit more of a break, and therefore some relaxing time where you can take time off and sort of really focus on, again, dialing in that recovery and time away from your screen, and obviously time away from pressured time zones such as work. So this will all, obviously remember, this will all be, it is being recorded, but this is going to be uploaded as a presentation in the coaching hub. So if you don't get everything down, don't panic, it will be with you soon. The simple science. So we know we've got a body clock, and generally our 24-day body clock, it's called a circadian rhythm. But if you've ever looked into biology or nutrition or anything like that, a substance in our body is called adenosine. I can't speak it tonight. Adenosine, basically, is energy, okay? And if you've ever studied physiology, when converted properly, it's adenosine triphosphate, etc. Anyway, we're not going to go into that too much, the science. But during the day, when we go through the day, this lowers and it causes our sleep pressure to drive up. Now, this is really important for us getting a good night's sleep. So when it comes to days when we've thought, oh, I'm going to sleep really well tonight, that is because when we've been busy at certain peak times of the day, our sleep pressure is increasing, okay? Our sleep drive is increasing. So therefore, we recover better. Sometimes when we're on holiday and we take a little break off, even the weekend, and we've had 2 solid days chill, we don't always sleep that well because we haven't got that sleep pressure and sleep drive that's really come up. And also it's really important to make sure you do move in the day, because if you've been slumped by your desk all day, your body's going to go into a bit of a lowering, it's just going to feel sluggish, but you haven't got that sleep pressure to drive up your need for sleep. So make sure we are getting that time on our feet, whether it's 20-30 minutes a day, alongside obviously training when it's scheduled for you. So in terms of our body clock, I think I've asked you these before, but answer these in a sort of really concise fashion as much as you can. So how would you describe yourself answering these 3 questions? What time would you break a world record in the gym? Do you prefer mornings or evenings? And what time would you write a 200-word article? So the answers to these questions are going to help you understand whether you're a morning lark or a night owl, okay? And if you're saying, right, okay, I'm peak at the afternoon, this is most probably because you're more of a morning lark. However, because your sleep cycle and your sleep quality isn't dialed in, you're probably peaking at that later point in the day as opposed to peaking in the morning when you're feeling refreshed and got up. So if you got that down, what do you think you are?
I'm clearly a sleep-deprived morning lark then, because I would say the afternoon.
Afternoon. And Nandika?
Definitely morning.
Morning. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll discuss that again, and obviously we're going to get to golden nuggets that you can do to really improve and drive your energy in the morning naturally without doing much at all. So we're going to get to the crux of it, because obviously we all want to lose a bit more weight, feel more toned, essentially have more energy. But what are the true effects of sleep deprivation on purely weight loss? So obviously we look at slowing down the metabolism. That's pretty natural. Obviously we're acting sluggish, everything's going to slow down, and essentially everything's going to down regulate, such as hormonal function, everything like that. But when we're sleep deprived, we've also got an increased appetite. Now, everyone will have noticed this 100% at one point or another. We've got increased levels of stress hormones, things such as cortisol, which is the most common one. And therefore, because of that, our body tells us to eat carbs. So we have serotonin released, which is our sleepy, relaxing hormone. So it obviously makes sense of why the body tells us to eat carbs, because we're craving that more relaxed state as opposed to feeling stressed and on, you know, moving, doing things at 100 miles an hour all the time. Now, when we are sleep deprived as well, looking at the effects of our hunger hormones and appetite hormones, ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone, increases at around 20% when we're sleep deprived. When we look at leptin, which is our appetite hormone, so obviously both of these are going to allow our appetite to really drive up and the want for food, that also can go up around 15%. Now, don't quote me on where that statistic come from. If you want to know, I can find out the reference point. But you can imagine if we're sleep deprived, around a 35% increase in just two hormones are going to make us not want to eat sort of, you know, chicken and veg and all the good sort of food that we know about. So obviously also cravings are therefore more likely to increase. So therefore, obviously the body's going to more likely want sugary and fatty foods. So those that are comforting and essentially going to sort of give us that instant fix of feeling happy. So why can this really excel my results? If we have sleep dialed in to the max, I think I've mentioned this to some people that are on this call right now before, but you can actually burn an amazing 440 calories extra per night. Now, this is only if everything's dialed in, okay? So I say everything, it will take time, but assuming you're going to implement nuggets that we're going to discuss now into your lifestyle and into your routines, I can promise you, you're going to notice a lot more weight drop, okay? So what can I do nutritionally to support myself? So the biggest thing, I used to say this all the time, and I'd admit, I kind of went off of this track. I used to be a bit known weird in my family because I used to eat beef mince and almond butter for breakfast, and I used to cook it in no matter what time, prepared, ready for the morning. But eating a high protein breakfast is more beneficial than eating carbohydrates first thing. We discussed it earlier, but the main thing is because carbohydrates allow the body to release the sleepy hormone that is known as serotonin. So obviously we don't want to feel sleepy first thing in the morning. We want our energy levels to drive up. So eating a high protein breakfast is not going to allow that to happen. Now this might be a bit controversial, but I've been trialing it for the last week or two and it's really, really worked. I used to get up straight away, go to my coffee, and admittedly so, I did do it a couple of times when I was away, but that's just because I was relaxed and obviously wanted my coffee. So my sleep was better anyway, but drinking 500 milliliters to 1 liter of water upon waking, and also the biggest thing is not drinking caffeine until 2 hours after waking. So not drinking it straight away. The reason for this, when we get up, all of our stress hormones are naturally increasing. Okay, so the way this is taught to me, if you've got two racehorses, instead of racing the two racehorses, you give one of them caffeine straight away in the morning, it's going to make that racehorse move more like a donkey than it is the racehorse that it is. So it really doesn't have any effect and there's no point in it. The best thing we can do is have it that 2 hours after. So therefore that allows our stress hormones to increase naturally. And at the point before they just drop, we spike in with the caffeine and essentially we get the full effects of the caffeine. We don't get it, believe it or not, first thing. Although psychologically we think we do, we don't. So try that. Now I've been trialing an app called Rise, and I'm going to mention this in the group separately because it's a really great app. You could possibly see it on my phone. There's a little purple icon just here. This is Rise app. Now I suggest you download that There is obviously a premium service, like every freaking app these days. You pay monthly. I'm on a free trial at the moment, and I can honestly say it's helped me realize when my best times are to do certain things. So this could be the same for you guys at work when you've got your biggest tasks, such as meetings or, you know, whatever you need to do. This can really help. So I suggest downloading this and giving it a go. We can also, now this is a bit of odd one because I'm not a fan of fasting. I'm really not. It just shortens the amount of time obviously we eat, but when this is put to me, it makes sense. We need to try gradually of having more of a time restricted eating window. The reason being for it is because the body is more likely to produce energy and essentially relax at the right times. If we're eating throughout the whole day and essentially, and most importantly, late at night, the body is going to be using more energy and delivering more blood to the gut when we need it to go to the brain. So eating 2 hours, not eating 2 hours before bed will enhance that blood to the brain and essentially make us get more out of our sleep. Essentially, it will help the release of melatonin, not melanin, that's the skin one. Melatonin is the sleep hormone that drives our sleep to start and essentially allows it to be quality sleep throughout the night. So time restricted window, I'm not going to look at it too much because I think it's going to confuse too many people. But if you want to ask me about it, please do another time. But this is not really the biggest thing today. So when we look at our morning routine, hydration is key, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, drinking 500 ml to 1 litre of water upon waking, making sure we've got that caffeine delay of 2 hours after waking and not drinking it straight away. A simple 20 minutes of natural sunlight. So you don't necessarily need to be outside, but make sure you've got something, especially come the winter months, obviously when it's grey and it's dark outside, try and have something that replicates natural sunlight. So you can get lamps these days that are known as sad lamps, so seasonal, I can't remember the term, but it basically replicates obviously sunlight that we don't always get. This is really important to stimulate again that natural drive of our stress hormones to wake us up. And 5 to 10 minutes of movement, so stretching or anything simple like some bodyweight squats is really good, and a cold shower. Now we're not going to go into the Wim Hof breathing thing because that's a bit advanced and we don't really need to do that. And I'm sure most of you wouldn't really enjoy having a super cold shower right now, but a colder shower in the morning is far more beneficial, waking ourselves up and again driving that cortisol hormone up, our natural energy source, stress hormone. A cold shower is going to do far better than a warm or a hot shower. That is not the best way to start the day if you're having a super hot shower, because you're going to feel like you want to get back in bed, especially when those days aren't too warm outside. You're going to want to get cozy again and probably wrap up in a blanket on the sofa. So on the flip side, now best evening routine basics. So your evening routine actually starts that morning. So you must be able to get a morning routine in before even really thinking about your evening, because you want your energy to stay good throughout the day. And again, as I mentioned earlier, is bringing up that sleep pressure. So you've got that sleep drive ready to go into a nice deep sleep in the evening. So bringing in habits that relax the body, relax the brain, and relax the senses. So again, body relax could be something as obviously chilling out, feet up on the sofa. Brain relax can be things like not allowing your body to be stimulated by news. A lot of people obviously recently have probably been looking at BBC News to check out the COVID rules and obviously the COVID thing with obviously the countries of going amber and green and red. That's not the best fucking thing to make you want to go to sleep. You're just going to be stressing out about it all night without thinking about it. Senses, so again, warm shower, evening, to help the body relax and switch off. So habits for the body, the brain, and the senses. Making sure your phone is on sleep mode. and do not disturb. So the difference is obviously between them. When your phone is on sleep mode, it draws all the blue light out the screen. So make sure it's not stimulating that wake up sense. And also obviously do not disturb is clearly not going to allow it to sound and wake you up or stimulate you to look at your phone. Recommending book or podcast, so no screens before bedtime. So essentially allowing yourself to get into bed and read or listen and not allow the brain to be fully stimulated by obviously scrolling through your phone and possibly having the temptation of looking at a last minute work email comes in. Again, that is really not going to help you get a good night's sleep. And as I mentioned earlier, not eating 2 hours before bed to enhance blood to the brain. So that was probably a little bit quicker than I thought tonight, but I'm just going to bring my view different again. I'm just going to take off this screen a second, but I hope you learned some gold to implement straight away, if not in a couple of days' time. But can you let me know what your biggest takeaway was from that training tonight? And let me just come out of this presentation. Right, let me get back into stop the screen share. Where's that gone? Cool. So I'm just going to stop the recording now.